Alright, welcome back to another episode, I guess, of the what made this game good series I've got going on. Today we're going to look at something that's not Resident Evil, but kind of basically is. This is Evil Within, the original Evil Within, more specifically. This game came out a long time ago now, and if you didn't know, the director of this game also made the original Resident Evil. He came back to do 2, and then I believe he did 4 as well, so, the big boys, the good ones, the memorable ones he has definitely made. And this game just kind of, it's clearly obvious that the same dude made it, because they do kind of share the same, not story, because the story in this game is absolutely bonkers, but gameplay wise and spooks wise, it's kind of the same as more of the older games. So yeah, today we're going to look into the story of the Evil Within, the gameplay, and just what makes this game pretty damn good. Okay, so for story, you play as a detective called Sebastian, who is called to a mass homicide at a Beacon hospital. You end up going there, and there's just bodies all over the place. No one's around, and you look through security cameras and see the main enemy of this game called Ruvik. Ruvik is not entirely human, currently, and he died a long time ago, and he's kind of like, the story essentially takes place in his mind. There's like a big reveal later in the game where you find out that everything that's taking place is in Ruvik's brain, and you're all kind of like plugged into it, basically. And Kidman, who is the detective who's with you, is actually working for this company who built this machine called STEM. STEM is essentially where you can plug into people's brains, basically, and you can kind of see things in their head. And obviously, Ruvik's not exactly the most, mentally stable person, so his whole mind is a bit kind of messed up, and there's a lot going on. But hence the name Evil Within, because it's in his brain. And I would say the character, Sebastian's quite a good character. There's a lot more flesh to him in the second one, but he's a good character. He's just a cop trying to figure out what's going on. Kidman is obviously turns out to not be on your side, and there is a DLC called The Consequence, but it's in 2 parts, where you play as her and what led her to kind of work for STEM, essentially. She does return in the second one as well. You obviously also play as Sebastian in the second one. But in the second game, it's more about Sebastian than Ruvik. So the second game does flesh out his character a lot more than the first one does. But that's essentially the gist of the story in this game. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot I couldn't even begin to explain, because my first few times playing this through when it first came out just confused me so much. But the story is very interesting, and it does continue quite well in the second game and through the DLCs of the first. Personally, I would say the first game is better than the second one, because the first one has more of that linear original Resident Evil experience, and the second one's kind of got like, there's a bit more freedom on the map. You're in like a town for the most part, and you can kind of just walk around wherever you want. There is a lot of optional things to do, which is fine. It's still a good thing, but the tone and the gameplay of the first one for me is just a better experience all around. Okay, so gameplay wise, takes a lot of similarities from Resident Evil in terms of the limited ammo and the not massive variety of weapons. Obviously, you have a pistol and a shotgun, and then you have to scavenge the ammo. Again, with this type of game, you have to kind of be careful with your ammo because you don't have much. Obviously, unless you play on like easier difficulty, which is, again in this game is kind of a bit more forgiving than the easy difficulty in the old Resident Evil games, but still quite restrictive in some cases. There was also a mode in this you earned from beating the game called Akuma, I think, and that is just ridiculously difficult. Essentially, what Akuma is it's like a one-hit mode where any singular enemy in the game can one-shot you, and it's so annoying. You would literally have to just if you even want to attempt Akuma mode, you would have to have played the game through a bunch of times on like a normal difficulty, and then when you know the spawns and you know what's coming, you can kind of dodge it and prepare for it. Obviously, things aren't going to play out perfectly the same every single time. Like, enemies may attack you at a different time, or things may like ammo might be in a different situation. But again, it'll take a lot of practice to beat it, and it is kind of it isn't a lot of like the lists you see like in different YouTube videos about hardest things in games, and it is up there sometimes in some of them. It is in the second game as well, and I feel like in the second game it's probably a bit easier. Excuse me, because there's a lot more variation in weapons in the second game than there is in the first game. But going back to the gameplay elements themselves, you do have a means to upgrade your character. You can give Sebastian more HP, more stamina, I think, stuff like that, through this gel you find throughout the game. It's like a consumable you can find. And then in like the safe rooms, which there is technically in this game, I think you look into a mirror in this one and it takes you back to this like safe area. There's this nurse there who is like, you're able to kind of upgrade your character through her, and you can upgrade certain traits, which is pretty cool. The bosses in this game, there's a few bosses. One that comes to mind for me is like the spider kind of woman. I think you have to beat her like just by burning her, but the bosses in this game are actually pretty well done. Like I quite like the bosses. There's not many. I think there's more in the second game, but they're really well done. The design of them is really cool. The enemies look really cool in this game as well. And it's in third person, so it does follow the classic, Resident Evil being in third person. Because 7 and 8 are in first person, but this one is in third. There is an option in the Evil Within 2 to play it in first person. I have not tried that. To be honest, I haven't played the second one since I beat it the first time. But there is a first person mode in the game, which is tempting to try. So I would definitely like to give that a go. But the gameplay mechanics wise, it is very familiar. Like you'll feel very kind of at home if you played a lot of Resident Evil games, and then you go to play the Evil Within. And looking at it now, obviously looking at the gameplay in the background, this game is quite old. I can literally look down and see like the digital the limited edition, box on the shelf below me. It's quite old. It's been there for a long time, but the game looks, I would say, still quite good, even now. And the second one definitely does look bad, but this just looks good. I did like there's a kind of a filter over the game. I can't really put my finger on what I would call it, but there's a pretty cool looking filter on the game that makes it look kind of like eerie and grim, and just the overall tone of the game is just really, really cool. And it does genuinely get quite spooky at times. A couple of jump scares have happened to me in the past in this game that I just did not see coming, and for me they're kind of the best things in these types of games where it's not like choreographed, like it's not expected. Like some games, more specifically like the Outlast series and stuff like that, because those games are quite linear, but because of how the game works, because you can't fight back in Outlast. Obviously, you have to run and hide. You can kind of see the jump scares and stuff coming because it is kind of on a set path, and there is no way to fight back. So you kind of have to expect to walk around the corner and get jumped. But this game does it very well for being like a proper sort of horror game where you can fight back. So there is like some spooky sections, which is pretty nice. Okay, and then in terms of, I'd like to cover this a little bit at the end. I have done it for the Resident Evil games, and I will still try and do it the best I can. In terms of replayability for the game, the story is very, very good. I don't believe there's like a new game plus system where your upgrades carry over, so you are kind of forced to start again from scratch. But the difficulties, obviously you have the easy difficulty, then Survivor, and then up to Akuma. They're all quite, there's quite a jump between them, I would say. Definitely between normal and hard, and obviously hard on Akuma. So definitely it is worth going through again all the difficulties just to kind of really get a feel for how different the game is on those hard difficulties. Obviously there's DLC. The DLC isn't as good, I don't think, as the main game. It's a lot less combat focused, and it's more story and lore, and a couple of puzzles, I think, than actual fighting. I believe there is some, and I believe there is some like hiding as well. But I believe the main story is better, in my opinion, at least. And then there is another DLC called Executioner, I think, where you play as the one of the boss enemies that follows you around. Is basically described with a safe on his head. And you play as him. And I believe it's like a mini game mode. I don't think it's actually like a proper story. I could be wrong. I haven't played it in forever. But that was definitely a lot of fun. I do remember it being pretty fun. But your replayability definitely comes from Akuma mode. Learn the game, figure out what you're doing, and then jump into Akuma mode and try and do it. I would like to try and do it one day, but I haven't played the game through fully in so long that I'll probably just forget. And there's one bit that comes to mind that just makes me question if it's even possible. But who knows? Maybe one day in the future I'll try it. Maybe on this, maybe on the second one. Who knows? But that's gonna cover it for the Evil Within. It's a good game. It definitely takes some inspiration from the Resident Evil series, obviously, because the dude who started Resident Evil made this. And I did think that a video on this game would be good, because there is rumours sparking that the IP for the game has been renewed, so there is potential for there to be a third one coming. I believe the second one didn't sell as well as the first, so it was kind of questionable if they would do another one, but apparently the IP has been renewed, so who knows what they're going to do. And with Bethesda now being owned by Xbox, will I even get to play the third one, because I don't have an Xbox? But there is a potential that there is a third game, or a spin-off game, or another game in the series at some point. So I thought I'd just go back and just kind of talk about Evil Within, and what made it a good game, because it is good. And it is a shame some reviews of it weren't great when it first came out. I personally enjoyed it because it's just the type of game I enjoyed playing the most. But they didn't sell as well as you would think, but they're still definitely good. So don't ever let sales or reviews change your opinion on the game. Definitely play it first. And if you do like Resident Evil games and any kind of small horror game, you'll probably love this too, because it's just a fun game to play, and it is genuinely spooky, and the story is really good. So it's a all-round good kind of package. And obviously, because the first and the second one are quite old, they're not exactly expensive anymore, so you might pick them up quite cheap. So if you haven't played them, definitely go ahead, and if you ever get some spare money, just pick it up, because it's definitely worth the play. But that's going to do it. Next game in this kind of series, I guess it is now, is going to be Alien Isolation. Again, another super old game, but absolute golden horror game. So, look forward to that. Leave a like if you do enjoy this video, and if you have a different opinion to me on the Evil Within, then let me know too. And then I'll see you all in the next one.